Elements Presbyterian Church. It's Miss Joy. I hope everyone's doing well. I hope all my young friends have had a great start to their new school year. I know the first week there was some bumpy, rough spots and some things to maneuver, but hopefully things are getting a little smoother now. I know it's still not ideal. We're not together. We're not hanging out with our friends the way we want to, but hopefully we're all making the best of it. So I was sitting in my kitchen and I was trying to decide, what do I want to talk about this week? And I happened to look over in the corner and I saw this bag that looks like a hot mess. It really does. And I was imagining if someone walked into my house and saw this bag sitting on my counter, they would think, what in the world is that hot mess in that bag? Well, this happens to be the starter for something called Amish friendship bread. And it takes about 10 days of squishing this bag and adding some stuff to it. And then on day 10, you add all kinds of other stuff to it and you bake it, and it makes amazing Amish friendship bread. So it's hard to believe that something that's such a mess could turn out to be something so delicious. And as I was looking at this bag of hot mess, it kind of reminded me of a Bible story. And it's actually one of my favorite Bible stories. It's a story about Joseph, one of Jacob's sons. So that's the story I'm going to share with you today. So I'm going to read it from the Jesus Calling Bible storybook. And this is the story of Joseph. And it starts out with Joseph the dreamer. Okay, I'll show you the picture. Joseph was one of Jacob's 13 children. I thought 4 children was a lot. 13! Joseph's older brothers disliked him because he was a tattletale. They disliked him even more when their father gave Joseph a wonderful, beautiful, colorful new robe. They really disliked him when Joseph said, I had a dream. We were tying bundles of grain, and your bundles bowed down to mine, like I was your king. Our king? The brothers wailed. No way. I had another dream, Joseph said. The sun, the moon, the stars, they all bowed down to me. Well, one day Joseph went to check on his brothers in the field, and when they saw him, they said, we're going to get rid of that dreamer who thinks he's better than us. Then they grabbed Joseph and threw him into a well. Later, a group of traders came along riding on camels. Where are you going? The brothers asked. To Egypt, the men said. So Joseph's brothers sold him to the traders. We'll mess up Joseph's new robe and tell Dad that a wild animal killed him, the brothers decided. And that's exactly what they did. The traders sold Joseph as a slave to the captain of the king's guard, a man named Potiphar. With God's favor, Joseph did well at his work. He grew strong and handsome, so handsome that Potiphar's wife fell in love with him. Come with me, she said. No, cried Joseph, that would be wrong. You're married. From then on, Joseph tried to stay far away from her. But she got angry because Joseph didn't obey her command. When no one was watching, she took Joseph's coat. Then she brought it to her husband and she said, Look, Joseph came to shame me. She lied. So Potiphar threw Joseph into the king's prison. But God was still with Joseph. Soon Joseph was put in charge of all the prisoners and all the prison work. Joseph is set free. God understands our dreams. While Joseph was in prison, God allowed him to understand dreams too. The king's wine taster got into trouble and was put into prison. The man asked Joseph to explain a dream, and Joseph said, Your dream means that you'll get out of prison in 3 days. When that happens, ask the king if he will let me out too. And Joseph was right. The man was set free. But he forgot to tell the king about Joseph until 2 years later. The king of Egypt had a dream, and he asked the wine taster to explain it. He says, I cannot explain your dream, the man said. But I remember a young man from prison who can. So the king sent for Joseph, and Joseph explained the king's dream. Amazing, the king said. The Spirit of God is in this man. Then the king set Joseph free. In fact, he was so impressed that he put Joseph in charge of the whole land of Egypt. Now a great famine spread through the land. No one could find food. Back in Canaan, Joseph's family was starving. "We're so hungry," they wailed. By then, Joseph was governor of Egypt, and Egypt had lots of grain stored up because of his wise leadership. People came from all over to get grain. Joseph's brothers came too. Not knowing what had become of Joseph, they didn't recognize him when they bowed down to him. He was all grown up, but Joseph did recognize his brothers. "Oh, governor, sir, may we please have some grain?" they asked. After all those years, Joseph's brothers were before him and did not even know who he was. "Are they still the mean brothers who sold me into slavery?" Joseph wondered. He questioned and tested them many times to see if they had changed, and they had. Finally, Joseph cried, "I'm your brother, Joseph!" They were shocked and speechless. They'd been so cruel those many years ago, and now Joseph was a mighty and powerful ruler. What would happen to them now? They didn't need to worry. Joseph forgave them for everything they had done. Though the brothers' plan was for evil and to harm Joseph, God turned it into good. Because Joseph was in Egypt and in charge of storing up food, God made sure that Joseph's whole family was saved from the famine. They all moved to Egypt, and when Jacob arrived, Joseph came to greet him and threw his arms around his father. They wept tears of joy because God had brought them together again. So in our story, Joseph seemed to be in a hot mess. Lots of bad things were happening to Joseph. But God used all of it and made something good come of it. Because of Joseph's situation, he was there to help feed all these hungry people. And we may feel like we're in a hot mess right now with this pandemic and see no way out of it. But we do need to remember that God is in control. And God is with us every step of the way. Even when we may not feel like it, He's there. And God has a plan. So remember that, my sweet friends. Remember the story of Joseph. You can remember my hot mess of some Amish friendship bread if you want to. But either way, just remember that God is with you. God loves you. And God will help us through this all. Take care, and I look forward to seeing you all soon. I love you. Bye.